Stress doesn't make us happier. So less stress is more happiness. How do we get less stress? By the ability to slow down our breathing. So the key to happiness, to make it really simple, the key to happiness in 2 words is breathe slowly. And that's it.
You are listening to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find both the inspiration to grow and the actions to implement towards your next level. I am your host, 𝘁࿴𝗄𝗆, and my mission is to inspire you to stand out and live your best life. I interview thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life and offer, through their wisdom, actions you can take and implement. Tune in for 2 new episodes each week and make sure you follow the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Tim van der Vliet. Tim, you are a breathing specialist, a Wim Hof Method instructor, a YouTuber, author, and the father of 5 children. Your 15 plus years of experience, self-exploration, and training have led you to create a set of techniques based around 6 pillars which allow someone to control their life, both mentally and physically. You are passionate about helping people live a life with more energy, amazing health, focus, and getting as much out of life as possible. Tim, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here with me.
Thank you, Agi. It's a pleasure to be here.
As I was telling you earlier, I'm a Wim Hof Method enthusiast myself, so I'm very much looking forward to the conversation and discussing some of the elements of that, along with other things. Shall we start with a little bit of background so we can get to understand where you're coming from? So can you take us back to the time before all this started, before the breathwork and your these changes?
Yeah,
just describe so we can understand a little bit of where you're coming from.
So I think where to start, because I'm not going to start when I was born, you know, we're not getting there. I was a stock market trader. You know, the guys with, if you're old enough, you understand this, the guys with colored jackets screaming quotes in the trading pit. Mm-hmm. An option trader in Royal Dutch Shell, one of the biggest stocks in the world, and that was my job. And then at a certain moment, I became cocky. I became kind of arrogant, because I was one of the biggest traders of the Dutch market, and the Dutch market is the second biggest market after Chicago, you know, so I was becoming cocky, like feeling very good about myself. And then at the same time, I was becoming fearful of losing my money. Mm-hmm. And in 6 months' time, I'll make the story short. In 6 months' time, I lost my whole capital. And that set off, like hitting rock bottom, you can say, you know, financially, that set off my path in personal development. Because the funny thing was that I remember vividly that in the week after I lost everything, I was standing in front of my house and I felt relieved. And I noticed in hindsight that with losing all that money that I had was 600,000 euros, like 500,000 British pounds in 6 months' time, you know, without spending anything, you know, losing it in the market. But I was like, I felt better than ever, because with the losing my money, I also lost the fear of losing my money, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And that set off a path where I stayed in the financial market, but I started doing yoga and self-exploration. And at a certain moment, the last 2 years working for a Swiss algo trading company. The last 2 years, I didn't need sleep. I had so much energy. So I had 3 kids back then, worked 5 days a week. I was partying 1 or 2 days a week with my friends, you know, like we all do. And then, I didn't need a lot of sleep. I was sleeping like 3-4 hours a night with so much energy. And I was reading every self-help book, watching YouTube videos, you know, that I call it my open up phase. And after 2 years, I was kind of ready. I had my philosophy straight. I especially call it philosophy because, what happened then is I had written down my thoughts in those 2 years. And when I stopped my job, I published a book. Within 6 weeks, there was this book, and I self-published it. And a year later, Hay House, a UK publisher, came into the picture and said, like, we want to publish your book. And this is where my teaching career set off. Basically, I said to the publisher, like, okay, thanks for publishing. See you later. And they said, like, well, this book is just the beginning. Now you have to teach. And I was like, teaching? Really? So I became, funny enough, from stock market guy to a spiritual teacher, meditation teacher. And into, you know, the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival and these Hay House events and into that spiritual world. It sounds like I was in the criminal world, you know. I was in the spiritual world. And then around 7 years ago, I met Wim and we became friends, and I started practicing deep breathing breath hold techniques, and cold training. And I was doing daily exercise already.
Did you meet him through an? Sorry to interrupt him. Did you meet him through an event he was doing? I was wondering how you got initiated into the Wim Hof.
Well, the first time I met him was at one of his fundamental workshops in Amsterdam. And when we talked a bit, but we didn't become friends. But then we were both having a talk in Brighton at the Veg Fest. So this was before Wim was famous. And we had a full day together. And this is where we talked for 6 hours. And basically we became brothers there. You know, like we're on the same path. We do it a little bit differently. But as you already mentioned, I'm a Wim Hof Method instructor. And I'm very proud to be one because it's an amazing technique. And Wim is a big teacher. Let me get this straight. He's a friend. He's not my guru. I don't just buy everything he says, but he is really one of my big inspirations mainly because of his strong mindset and his clear goal. You know, he really knows where he wants to go to. And that's a big inspiration. And it inspired me to do, the same, you know, like I have a clear goal in life and I don't get off path very easily because I know very good what I want. So that's about 6 years ago, 6 years ago, where we became friends. And then he asked me, like, don't you want to become an instructor in the Wim Hof Method? And my first reaction was, hell no. You know, the ice and Poland and getting into the cold. And then I was very aware of that I was actually very afraid of that part. Then I thought like, oh yes, this is what I want to do. And then after so I became an instructor. And after that, I made a clear decision that I want to travel the world teaching this method. And that's what I'm doing now. You know, apart from that, I teach a lot of corporates, which is essential. Most breathwork instructors are in the yoga and spiritual space. I'm in that corporate space because I can make it very simple. So that's something that I do also. And I do, I have my own breathing technique, which is extremely simple. And I'm also teaching breathwork instructors in my own breathing technique. So those are like the 3 things that I do in the daily life. And apart from that, I'm a father of 5, you know, and being a father is very important for me. I am there. I'm around, you know.
Thank you. There are, and I'm going to ask you about more specifics about your technique in a moment. There were a couple of things that came up to me while you were sharing this story, and one was how you have been, in my sense, the way that you were describing it. It sounds like you were called to teach. So first it was your teaching after you wrote the book, and then Wim asked you to teach the method. So it is something that it looks like your path was there and you just needed to follow it, despite maybe some resistance that I suppose it's a human thing to have the voice that doesn't like new things.
Yes.
So that was one thing that came to mind. And there was one other thing you said about the corporate world, that you teach breathwork rather than more on the spiritual settings like yoga and meditation. And I think that's very important, because I believe that people who are, doing yoga, meditation, and are already in a search maybe for something beyond what's, the physical or what we have here. On the other hand, people in corporate maybe are more detached from it. So by you teaching them breathing, hopefully, or maybe they can initiate a process of them going to the spiritual quest and realizing more about it. So it was just some thoughts that came up, and I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, you're absolutely right. Although what I see in the yoga world, people are still searching, and I kind of think in paradoxes, like I stopped searching and I started finding. And that's because I never thought about it, that I was called to be a teacher, but now you mention it like that, I'm like, yeah, that's funny. You're right. And, people are over searching and thinking too much, basically. And if you just relax into the process and instead of searching, become a finder, you know what you want, and things pass by and you're like, that's my call. Yes, thank you. And also what I've seen in the years that I've been teaching, which is now about 10 years, that people kind of don't know what to do with it. We go from one guru to the other in the spiritual world, or one teacher to the other, or you are a biohacker and at a certain moment you have a 2-hour morning routine and you have to do this, and this. And I cut it down to very simple and very little. And that is what works. It also works for, say, call it a more spiritual oriented people that are already on a certain path of getting more, living their purpose or getting more out of life. But in the corporate world, and that's what I find is very important, that breathwork instructors are teaching there, because if you want to create a ripple effect, and you can change, I don't know, say a company, a management team of a big company, like let's call one of the uglier companies, like that are only focused on money, like some pharmaceutical or an oil company, they don't care about the environment. And systems are difficult to change, but systems consist of people. Mm-hmm. And if the people within a system, especially the higher, the C-level or management level, can be changed into a more intuitive form, not losing the rational mind, it's a combination of that intuition, that intuitive brain and the rational brain together, that may actually create a ripple effect. That is, well, I'm not worried about the planet. Save the planet is an illusion. It's about saving humanity. The planet will survive, don't worry, but that we create a more sustainable world that we can pass on to the 7 generations or the 100 generations after us. Mm-hmm. So to make it very simple and very practical is what I'm doing, and honestly also what I need myself, because I'm so super busy, as you can imagine, that this is one of the sessions that I have, and I have another 2 sessions today, and then there's there's a lot of work to do and planning of all my trips. I don't have time for 1 hour of morning routine in the morning, or I don't make time, and I choose to do so. But by doing a little bit, that's actually enough. And that creates a calm mind that instead of, beating yourself up, oh, I didn't do enough, I did enough. I'm okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you for bringing the conversation there, because I can relate to what you said. I'm not a biohacker, but my morning routine is long, the full version of it anyway. And there are times, I have the privilege to have time to dedicate 1 hour, but that's not what I would always like to do. So I'm very much. I can resonate with what you're saying about having something that takes much less time and effectively produces the same result or even better, because you can have a 1 hour routine and maybe not doing the things that will produce the maximum benefit. So in a way, you're deluding yourself that you're doing something amazing, whereas you might be wasting time. I'm speaking generally, of course. So I wanted to ask you about this morning routine, or the morning ritual that you talk about. And can you tell me in a brief then, that you have 3 pillars, 3 simple things that you say you do every morning and you teach others to do. Can you go through them with me so we can get an overview first, and then we can dive deeper into some of them?
Yes, first, where does this come from? I call this a dentist model. So we brush our teeth every day, and we go to the dentist once a year. And we clean up everything, and we have a checkup and everything. Now, then, why do we have clean teeth? Of course, because of both. But minimum morning routine is like brushing your teeth every day for a minute. Mm-hmm. This is the 80%. 80% of having clean teeth is from brushing your teeth every day. And then once a year you have that checkup and clean up everything. That's the other 20%, you could say. So what I've seen a lot is people are searching for a lot of people don't know what they're searching for, but they're searching. And becoming a finder is basically doing something yourself every day. And this is what I call the minimum morning routine. And it consists of 3 pillars, as you said. It's exercise, breath work, and cold training. Exercise, 2 minutes. Can be longer, but 2 minutes is enough. Breathing, 5 minutes. Can be longer, but 5 minutes is enough. And ending your shower cold, say, for 30 seconds or a minute. That doesn't cost you any time. So, in my philosophy, I have a minimum morning routine, which is that 7 minutes. That includes exercise and breath work, and the cold training doesn't cost any time. And I have a maximum morning routine, which is as big as you want it. Can be 3 hours. It is. I have 1 day a week where I practice for 2-3 hours, including an hour of meditation and all that stuff, standing on my head, trampoline jumping, running, the 5 Tibetan rites, like yoga, 45 minutes of breath work. It's really big. It's so big that's irrationally big. And the funny thing is, you never have to get there. You move, but your minimum morning routine is let's call it what you have to do. And the maximum morning routine is optional. And you flow somewhere every day between the minimum and the maximum morning routine. The good thing of keeping it this minimal is, for example, yesterday, I was in the plane from Argentina back to Amsterdam. And I downloaded all these videos on Netflix, you know, a series that I'm watching about time travel, of course. Mm-hmm. And there were some good series too, but we were also flying through in the day, you know, so I slept half an hour. And I come back and there's a bunch of kids. There's the full-time job that I'm having here. I had to give a session, you know, a 2.5-hour session, group coaching for my crowd. So there's simply no space to have a jet lag. I don't do jet lags. It's very simple. It's just a mindset thing. And I'm okay even with a half an hour of sleep. And that's you know, like my energy level now from being okay is compared to, say, 7 years ago when I was a spiritual teacher, it's 5 times bigger. So even if I'm at 30, 40 or 50% today, it's still way more than my 100%, say, 7 years ago. And that is because of that minimum morning routine. Because if you do 2 minutes of exercise and 5 minutes of breathing, and I'm walking here in the streets of Amsterdam and I'm feeling a bit off because I slept only half an hour, which is not more than normal. Instead of going into a story in my head like, oh, it's because I didn't sleep. Oh, yes, because I have a jet lag. You know, like we are making ourselves crazy with that rational brain. We cannot live without it, and living with it is a challenge as well. But because I did my 2 minutes and my 5 minutes, instead of going into I'm screwed up today because whatever story, I'm getting into that thought of, I didn't sleep. Oh, wait, I did my exercise, I did my breathing, I ended my shower cold, I'm okay. So this is a mental thingy, but if any limiting thought, or call it a negative thought, ends with, but I did my exercise, breathing and cold training, so I'm okay, it's not a negative thought anymore. And that is the power of doing a little every day.
Hi, it's Agi here, interrupting you with something you may find useful. One of the most frustrating feelings is when you're trying to focus, but you can't get your brain to concentrate on the important work in front of you. This happens to me all the time, and if it happens to you too, you are not alone. 40% of people say they have to make a big effort to concentrate. But if you're having trouble getting focused, I have a solution for you. I'm so excited to be partnering with Brain FM. Brain FM is a great app, and I use it to block out my mental chatter and zone in on my number one priority of the day. Brain FM uses functional music that is backed by science and research, and it is designed to give us that extra edge when we need our undivided attention. And they also have relaxation, meditation, and deep sleep modules that help you unwind and recharge. So if you want to be able to place your full attention exclusively in the activity you choose, whether that's meaningful work or relaxing or getting high quality sleep, right now, as my podcast listener, you get 20% off Brain FM subscription at brain.fm/Agi. That's an amazing deal for such a useful app. Thousands of people have given 5-star reviews to Brain FM. Find out why? brain.fm/Agi. It makes me think two things. One is even the small in duration practice, when it's practiced daily, it accumulates the effects. So that's one thing that, you pick up momentum and it compounds. The other one is it's very impressive as the way I understood it, especially with this particular example that you said that you had half an hour of sleep and then you did this short routine and then your mindset was different. So I think it was more the knowing in yourself that you did what you needed to do, and therefore you had this satisfaction or internal contentment about I have done what I needed to do. And then it's easy to change your state because of that, the mindset thing and the fact that you've done it, rather than it was the actual 2 minutes of exercise that you did that produced that effect. So I hope what I'm trying to say gets clear, that's how I understand it, that these practices in the end affect the way that you think and perceive and look at yourself.
Yes, you're exactly right, because in 2 minutes time you don't burn a lot of calories. Say somebody wants to lose weight, but what does happen is that you get energy. It's all about energy in the end, and beyond that there's nothing but space or love, if you want, if we want to make it fluffy. But it's all about energy. So by doing 2 minutes of exercise and 5 minutes of breathing, your body remembers. You wake up, you do this before breakfast, you wake up and you move your body. It remembers that it's made to move and not to sit behind a screen the whole day and eat candy. So through the day you will have more energy. And this is where you change your path bit by bit, simply because you have more energy. You order less of a lunch, you eat less. And this is like you profoundly change from the inside instead of the personal trainer 2 days a week. I'm not against that, don't get me wrong, but you should do both, that minimum morning routine and then do those bigger things as well. And you will notice that because you have more energy, those bigger things become easier. And if you do breath work in the morning, just 5 minutes, you're more aware of your breath the whole day. And that's another thing that really makes my life better, because my nature is impatient, easily bored, and I can get irritated, like if something doesn't go fast enough, basically. That's my nature. So how do I manage that? With my breath. And I do a lot of breath work when I'm in a public space. So say we meet for a coffee in London. I'm guessing you're in London, by the way, but we meet for a coffee and you're 15 minutes late, which is normal, commuting in London. I will not get bored or impatient or irritated, because that means that's 15 minutes of breathwork exercises waiting for you. And that is really, I really want to scream this off the top of the roofs, that is, if you start practicing even during a Zoom session with all your colleagues, C-level, highly important, you can be aware of your breath and do little things that make you less reactive, more focused, more intuitive without losing your rationality, like be more of I call it a human 2.0, basically, I've seen in that, in the crowd that I'm in for the last 10 years, that people are over searching. And if you start practicing, it all falls into place. Like when I was teaching meditation and spirituality, I still have the same philosophy, but I was very eager to teach and to give information. And now I'm way more relaxed, and I give what people need instead of what I think they need, because I've learned to take a step back. And that's part of it is, it all comes down to doing a little every day, killing dead moments in life with some form of breath work. And even if I do 5 minutes in the morning, I'm also teaching a lot, of course, but I'm guessing between 1 to 3 hours of breath work every day. But it doesn't cost me any time, because I'm killing these dead moments in life. You feel where this is going to, is that we become less patient, less irritated, and less bored, while actually working on your, call it personal growth, or your health, or your weight, or whatever you need from life. It becomes more effortless. And it all starts with that minimum morning routine, where you gain the mindset from, I did enough, instead of, it is never enough.
I will ask you about the breathing. Can you tell me just a quick comment, because I'm very curious. In 2 minutes, what kind of exercise can you possibly do that can have an impact? Because 2 minutes, you won't have... Is there something specific that... is it something that is intense in 2 minutes, or is it...
No, it's very light, actually. It's called... I have two exercises, but the one I start with is called the arm twist. Mm-hmm. And of course I can show you, but most people are listening. It's basically where you put your feet straight on the ground, bare feet if you can. Mm-hmm. And your feet like completely straight, hip width. And you start twisting your arms. Well, maybe I will show you anyway. So it's really just standing like this. And then looking backwards and just twisting your arms.
Okay.
This is it. And I can share a video also afterwards, or for 2 minutes. And this is lubricating your spine, sending more blood to your spine, you know, like training your deepest core, which is your spine. And we have a lot of problems, especially if we get older, lower back pain, neck pain, you know, name it. And by doing this exercise every morning for 2 minutes, you send blood to your spine, lubricate the discs, it all becomes more flexible. And after that, I do 5 minutes of TT5, which is my own technique. 1 round takes 1 minute, 5 rounds, 5 minutes. And that's enough to trigger I would like to say to trigger the nerd in people, because it's so simple and it works so it's so effective that if you do this for a month, you seriously, within these 7 minutes, you gain more energy, or maybe lower back pain of that you're already walking around for 20 years with is getting a little bit less, or maybe is going all the way. And from there, so you start to feel with this minimum morning routine, and you see the benefits instead of me telling you, oh, this is good for this and that and that and that, and do this 1 hour of every day, and then you will be good. Because what I see most of the time, and it's really more than 80%, is people do it for 3 weeks, a long routine, and then they throw it over the fence and they feel bad because they gave up. And this is so simple that it's really hard to give up.
And I find that, and also I will speak personally, that every time that I have tried to implement a new habit, whether it is part of my morning routine or the evening routine or wherever it is, it's not necessarily easy to integrate that routine into what I'm already doing. So I have found that the simpler it is, the more likely I am to start doing it, or if I can combine it, for example, with something else, or like what you were saying earlier, breathwork while you're waiting for your friend to come for coffee. I find that when I do them like that, it's much more likely to do them over a period of time, because after a while, after I've done them, then I don't have to think about it. They become habits, and I go on and do them anyway. But I think that initial period when you're trying to put something new, something beneficial into your day, into your structure, that it's a very, let's say, delicate, a gentle period, that if you don't do it in a way that is forgiving also, or simple, then, and I've done that many times myself, that's why I can share that so easily, because I have tried complex things which looked amazing, but it was too much complexity to add on top of everything else that I'm doing. So I like very much this approach of the simple and with less time. And of course, if you have more time, go right ahead and do 3 hours.
What happens often is after those 7 minutes, somebody is like, you know what? I take the train half an hour later. Texting my colleagues, sorry, I missed the train, and I do another half an hour of breath work. But the funny thing is, what happens then, it's not because you have to do it, but because you want to do it. And this is where the real change is. you know, you start doing what you want, what you've done is good enough, you stop beating yourself up and you have like a relaxer mindset. And then if you want to do more, you do that because it's because you want to do it. Yeah, not because because you have to do it. And can we go a bit into philosophy?
If you want, for sure.
And I have been feeling this for over 10 years, but I was very shy in sharing this. But I believe that we're in a paradigm change into a new form of species, like from Homo Sapiens to Homo Luminous. Yeah, you could call it the enlightened person. I make it very simple, from human 1.0, 𝗁 to human 2.0, 𝗁2. And in this paradigm change, I call it Little Tim and Big Tim. Little Tim worries. Little Tim asks, why is this happening to me? Little Tim wants to compete, and Little Tim is okay to be there. I acknowledge Little Tim, because Little Tim is also saying, like, you better start preparing now, because you have a meeting with 𝗁𝗁𝗄𝘆𝗆 in 5 minutes, better make sure you set up everything, like it's very okay for Little Tim to be there, but I want the Big Tim, 𝗁2𝗆, my human 2.0, I want more of that, because that is what is helping me further, and with that helping the world further, or humanity further. So very simply said, a human 1.0 asks, why is this happening to me? Why? A human 2.0 asks, why not? Or a human 1.0 is a victim of life, and a human 2.0 is using everything that happens in life as a learning moment. A human 1.0 needs a guru. A human 2.0 is its own guru. That is inspired not only by big names, but also by, for example, your child that is sleeping in your bed and has a cough all night and you can't sleep. That's when you get to that more of that U.0 out, you get to learn from everything that happens in your life. And we get to, I believe, I don't know if it will be 50 or 100 or 500 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now, that there will be a new species of humanity. And this is an evolutionary jump, the third big one. The first one was when single-cell organisms became multi-cell organisms. This was a huge leap forward in our evolution. The second was when life went from water to earth, another big leap forward, and this is the third. And what belongs to, basically you become a bit of a nerd. I'm called a breathwork specialist, but I call myself a breathwork nerd, because I'm very aware that I know nothing and that I'm just keep on learning. But in this paradigm change, we're often put away as that guy is crazy or a weirdo. This is what I do also with my online teachings. I create a community of people getting together because we can talk about breathwork. The main thing is breathwork. Exercise is essential to send blood to the spine. Breathwork is the main pillar, I would say. And cold training is as simple as just ending your shower cold. It doesn't have to be cold only. You don't have to lie in an ice bath every day. It's just ending your shower cold. If you need more energy, you do the 3-minute ending your shower cold. If you feel like today I don't want to do anything, you do 30 seconds. And the strong thing is that, we all flow up. We all have ups and downs in our lives. Where is the growth? Is it where we are up and everything is perfect? Relationship is good. Money is good. Health is good. Energy is good. Or do we grow where we are in a dip and we feel like giving up everything, but we still do that 7-minute morning routine? That is where we grow.
Absolutely. It's when there is discomfort and we go past the discomfort that we grow. When everything is comfortable, there is no growth whatsoever. And since you said about finishing the shower cold, because I have my own experience with that, it is really the most important thing that happens is a trigger in my mind, especially on the days that I feel very comfortable with the hot water, the warm water. And, you know, those moments that you don't want to get out of the shower, it's so calming and relaxing. And my mind starts putting these objections to turning it to cold. And it is that moment when I take command over my mind, over that little voice or that human 1.0 that you were saying earlier. When I say, no, this I will do. It doesn't matter if I don't like it, even more the reason. And of course, when I say I don't like it, it only refers to that thought that I'm going to switch it to cold. Once I switch it and the cold water hits me, then I like it very much. I like very much how I feel afterwards, to be precise. So I find it very important as a tool to train your mind to do something that is not comfortable. Because that really pushes you out of that comfort zone and out of that wanting to have everything as you expect them to be. And then obviously when something else during the day requires a similar behavior from yourself, it's easier to take it because you train your mind to just do whatever needs to be done or whatever you have decided to do, despite of the discomfort or the fearful voice or however you want to call it. So that's my own personal experience with the cold shower. And actually I wanted to ask you something for someone who's listening and probably maybe has not done anything like that, or the idea of cold shower is, you know, a little bit scary. You say specifically to end with cold. So that means you do your shower normally as you would, and then at the end, can you tell me just how you describe it, how you teach it?
Well, I see a lot in the cold training community that people are pushing it. And this is another paradox, but you actually become stronger by light training than by pushing it. So when I have an off day and I'm showering hot, and then I still have resistance. I've taken over 500 ice baths, probably 750. I still have resistance. Okay, that is okay. First of all, that is normal. And even with the cold shower, I'm like, oh, today not. And then I put it even hotter, uncomfortably hot. And then I turn it to cold all the way. And I slow down my breathing. And if somebody has a problem with that, or it's your first time, and you hear this now, you think like, I cannot do that. That's your mind screaming to you. Then try this. Shower hot. Put it even hotter. Get out of the shower, turn it to cold completely. You take a deep breath in. You hold for 1-2 seconds. While holding for 2 seconds, you get under that cold shower with your face and your chest. The moment it hits your body, you breathe out long. Then you breathe in again. While holding, you turn around. Next problematic part, your upper neck and your back. The moment it hits your back, you breathe out long. I've called this 4-8 breathing, but it's simply breathe in as slow as you can and as deep as you can. You hold for 2 seconds and you breathe out as long as you can. And calming down or coping with stressful situations like the cold shower, but can be applicable to any form of stress in your life. If you slow down your breath out, you get to be more calm, more focused. You can cope with that stress. You stay sane and you make the better decisions. Whether you are a yogi or a C-level of a big company. It's all about making better decisions. How do you do that? By making your breath out longer. And if you've done your cold shower in the morning, you had your moment of stress, apart from all the physical and hormone benefits and all that stuff. You had your moment of stress and you're able to cope with stress better. Because what I've seen a lot, and honestly, especially in that spiritual world, is that people walk away from the things they fear. And this is the power of, how Wim calls it, the power of light hormetic stress, inducing out of your comfort zone stress on yourself every day by exercise, breathing, cold training, my 3 pillars, what should I do, this. You put light hormetic stress on your body, and this is where we grow. And if you activate the fight or flight, because if you go for a run, you activate the fight or flight. If you stand under that cold shower, you activate the fight or flight. If you do take deep breath, deep and faster breath, you activate your fight or flight. But you do this voluntarily. And by lightly activating that fight or flight or sympathetic nervous system, you get to be more calmer through the rest of the day. And most people that are searching instead of finding, they're searching, they are walking away from the things that trigger their stress. Well, if you would face them and just slow down your breathing, you would be able to cope with it. And this makes you more of a human, simply said, or more of a human 2.0.
I like very much, you've mentioned it a few times during the conversation, that differentiation between searching and finding. And I think there is a subtle, but also at the same time a very important difference between two. And I think that you can search for all your life, but you have to somehow change the way you think about the searching and start. I'm trying to express it in a way that the way I understand it, but I like very much how you said going from searching to finding. And I think finding is also a part of searching, but you have to allow the finding to happen and not keeping on searching. So it's just an observation. You said it a few times, and I wrote it down and circled it. I think it's very important for someone to realize the difference.
It's actually a great book. It's called The Finders. And I'm really not, I read all the self-help books. What is it, like, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something. That's a typical searching behavior. Keep on reading more self-help books. At a certain moment, you need to implement it in your life. But my brother, who is an amazing guy, he told me, if he gives me a book, I read it, basically, because I'm not reading a lot of those books anymore. I'm more into practicing and teaching at this moment. I rather speak to people and get inspired, like that. But my brother, if he gives me a book, I read it, and it's called The Finders. And well, probably if you Google it, it's a very good book. I would say that's one of my top 5 books now. Because what happens when we're searching? We're so busy with searching and do things, we get stressed that we don't see what is actually in front of us and just passing by, which may be the biggest opportunity of your life. So if you don't relax into the process, you don't have your eyes wide open. You're focused on searching. Well, if you would just relax, you would see that it's passing by, and you only have to say like, yes, I like that. Because somebody is offering you something. And this is something that I keep on learning. Like I was in Brazil and in Argentina the last 4 weeks. And especially in Brazil, my co-workers are Brazilian. Everything is last moment. And my Western European mind wants to plan things. And it's so last moment that I really learn to let go. Like we had the last workshop. We had 1 subscriber. And I am then, like, wow, we should cancel it, And my colleague, his name is Shama, he's really saying, Tim, trust the process. I'm like, okay, yes, why not? You know, even if there's one person sitting there, who cares? And like last moment, there is another 11 that subscribe to the course. You know, so I have, it's not a big crowd, but you know, enough of a crowd. And I've really learned that by working together with Brazilian people, and Brazilian people are just so amazing, so open, so without attitude. You know, I love this country. I love the people. And I learned to really, you know, not only think I trust the process and keep on repeating it, like trust the process, you know, like, and getting stressed about it because I'm actually not living what I'm trying to be. Mm-hmm. Actually really letting go and trusting the process. And that's what I've learned in this last 4 weeks, that it's like I can, it sounds a bit vague maybe and a bit woo-woo, but like I can really trust the process, and like there is some form of energy that is guiding me and that wants me to do what I'm doing. The only thing I should do is stop overthinking and get into my relaxed mode and start finding instead of keep on searching.
You said trust the process, and you were saying earlier about the inner guru that we have, rather than needing some outside guru to tell us what is the path. And I think that it doesn't matter if someone calls it, you might call it woo, or I personally don't. I see these things, when you have experienced them, they're real. You really can tell that when you have this inner intelligence, this intuition that comes and gives you something, and you implement it, and you see that, wow, it has happened against what my mind was telling me, then it's much easier to keep on going into that inner wisdom and utilizing it. It's not, of course, it's not easy. It's not it's not easy always. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it is something that I don't remember if you mentioned it in those list of characteristics between the 1.0 and 2.0 version, but I think it's also that ability to really trust your inner guidance, because it is important.
Because we cannot always, you know, a control freak wants to manipulate the world around them. And, you know, like, we didn't predict, for example, the COVID times, you know, or like you want to manipulate how a ice bath is feeling. Good luck. You can't. But you can manipulate, if you want, it's an intense word, but you can manipulate your reaction to a external event. Mm-hmm. And with that, even in intense situations, can be stress on work, can be an ice bath, can be a running practice, that you relax in the process, control your breath, slow down your breathing, and be okay with that stress. And this is where the growth is, because what you do underwater is you activate your inner peace or your meditative state. You know, as you know, I've been a meditation teacher. I threw it over the fence and become a breathwork instructor, because I can get a group of people within a minute into a deep meditative state, whether they're C-level in companies or it doesn't matter where they're from, just by extremely slowing down their breath. You know, the vaxxers and the non-vaxxers all together, nobody's judging each other. There's no polarization. Everybody is just slowing down their breath and noticing, oh my God. People go in a deep meditative state within 1-2 minutes time. So I get to simplify things for myself as well, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm not sure like what you have planned, but you know, a very simple philosophy is stress doesn't make us happier, right? Unless it's self-induced hormetic stress, you know, but stress doesn't make us happier. So less stress is more happiness. How do we get less stress? By the ability to slow down our breathing. So the key to happiness, to make it really simple, the key to happiness in 2 words is breathe slowly. And that's it. And if you want, we can slow down our breathing for a minute and we count the number of times that we're breathing. Then we do 5 rounds of TT5. And then we measure it afterwards again because, especially for the people listening, you want to test things for yourself instead of trusting who I am, or what I say or whatever you said, beautiful stuff and breathwork specialist. And it may be easy to, I'm going to follow that guy. No, you want to test for yourself. And how do we do that? By satisfying the rational mind. So we measure before the 5 minutes of breathing and afterwards how often we breathe, and you can see for yourself and measure for yourself if this stuff is working or not. Maybe I'm a charlatan. Let's say I'm a charlatan. Then you want to test if this stuff is working for yourself or not. So becoming your own guru instead of, having a new one, basically.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about the need to satisfy the rational mind, so it's very important, and I will repeat that too. But what I will repeat once more, because I will highlight it actually, what you just said right now, that the key to happiness is to breathe more slowly, and it sounds so simple as a phrase, but yet it's very profound, and I believe someone who has practiced some breathing techniques can see how that happens. So I just want to highlight it and say that once again, the breathe more slowly, and it's even thinking about it now I'm smiling, because also another thing, when you become aware of your breathing and slow it down, it tends to bring you back to the present moment when you concentrate on your breathing, no matter what else is happening. It's a pathway going inwards. So I really appreciate your approach very much, the way you describe these concepts, and I'm hoping that they are useful to the listener, not in the way of information, because that's not what I'm doing the podcast. All the information is out there. You can go and look it up. It's just getting something that you can use and implement and act on. And Tim, you have given us so many things today. So it's thank you, thank you very much. Nice and simple to implement, and yet very wise and profound, which is I think that's the beauty of it. It's simplicity. So
thank you for listening to me.
I would like also to ask you some quick fire questions to start wrapping things up, which I always ask my guests. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
Personal development is for me a process of getting more body intelligence. And body intelligence is the same as the intuitive mind. Yet with respect to the rational mind. So, say for example, how do I find the truth? Is when I feel something works for me and I've practiced it. And I can get my rational mind around it by measuring, by double clinical trial, by things like that. So personal development is for me to learn to listen to my body and my intuitive mind, using my rational mind, getting the two aligned, and setting out the path of what I want from life, and also, because this is a selfish process, you could say. And then the ultimate, this is not a paradox, the ultimate selfish act is to start helping others. It's a bit, maybe something to think about, but if you want to get everything out of life, at a certain moment you are helping others or cleaning up planet Earth. That's always my universal agenda. Yet, you know, that's, you could say, the intuition, the body intelligence, yet my rational mind, more time, more money, is also present. And when they come together, when I get to help people with respect to my own agenda and time management and make enough money to, you know, to pay for 5 children, this is where I shine most. This is like the ultimate goal of my personal development, to shine more or to become more of a human 2.0. And those two should be aligned, private and universal agenda. So universal, helping others and cleaning up the earth. Private agenda, having enough money and having enough time.
Thank you. Let me ask you also a hypothetical question. If you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give him?
It's funny, when I was 18 years old, I was pretty depressed and suicidal. And the message that I would want to give is exactly how I got out of that. And that is, I call this the power of paradox. This is the highest form of thinking, both in body intelligence as rational intelligence as there is I was very much in a depressed state because of my lifestyle, you know, Amsterdam, young, smoking joints and losing energy and getting depressed. I was thinking glass half empty. Mm-hmm. And a paradox is a statement that is both true and untrue at the same time, right? Very simply said. Mm-hmm. The paradox is that whatever you think, the opposite is also true. And that got me out of that depression in relatively fast was, wait a minute, it is as much effort to think glass half empty. I don't have enough friends. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have, I'm not good enough, basically, into glass half full. And that's the mind shift that got me out of that depression then. And that is what I would want to tell myself just before I got that message. And apart from that, also that you can really trust the process of life itself. What life has for you, if you are able to relax into the process and think glass half full instead of glass half empty, or both at the same time, but not only glass half empty, is that, Tim, you really don't have to worry about that path that is set out for you or that you will follow, because it will give you the most amazing life that you ever imagined, and even beyond your imagination. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm still working on. It's not that I'm ready. I'm like a child on the path. Like I know nothing. I'm willing to learn. I like a friend of mine, an author in the UK, he made this quote once: "A letter to the universe." Okay, I've listened. I'm in. I love that.
Indeed. Thank you. Tim, tell us what is the best place for someone to connect with you and find out more. And if you want to share a few words also about the online course that you have, your new online course. Okay, thanks for that.
You can find my website, 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗏𝗏.com. My phone number and my email are in the upper left corner. And you can send me a WhatsApp. I'm very available. That's how I spend my time on my phone, not on social media, but talking to people. Mm-hmm. I find that very important. And then I'm doing like 2 things. I'm educating, because I feel that there should be more like really knowledgeable and experienced breathwork instructors. So I'm educating breathwork instructors. It's not Wim Hof Method, just to be clear. Mm-hmm. And that level 1 is called Control Your Breath, Control Your Life. And this is basically where I step in the front and I teach like 90% of what I know. I do this together with another instructor that is also teaching my techniques, TT techniques, simplified tumor breathing, and the rest, exercise stuff, mindset. So that is if you want to get over your stress or have a better performance or better focus, that is where to start with. And some people are triggered to change their life and become a breathwork instructor with a special focus on teaching the corporate world, because this is where we need it. So very rational, yet it's a very energetic process at the same time. But to start out, I would say control your breath, control your life. You can find it in the menu. And there is also breathwork certification if you really want to dive in deep. I would say, and then you can find me if you Google my name on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere.
Thank you. Tim, even though, during our conversation, there have been many items that one who listens can take and implement. But if I ask you now, based on all the conversation we have, if you had to give to the listener one thing, one actionable item they can implement, what would you tell him or her?
5 minutes of breathing every morning before breakfast. And you can find on YouTube TT5 or TT10. That's perfect. Or simplified tummo breathing. Just go to my YouTube channel. You can find it. And if I can actually send you a video of the 7-minute morning routine. It's an unlisted video if you want to share that with your people. And I also, I want to give credits to Wim, because 10 years ago, I was a spiritual teacher and I thought I knew everything, and I even knew better than other people. And now I've fully integrated this. And this has been because I met Wim and I started, instead of pranayama techniques, doing deep breathing, breath hold techniques. Mm-hmm. And Wim is an amazing example. I think I mentioned this in the beginning, of somebody that has a clear focus on what he wants for the world and for himself. And he is a true inspiration when it comes to that. So, yes, and he's a total buddy. We can, sometimes we play with the kids. He lives 50 meters away from me. We just play in the play. We don't talk about breathing or science. We have our 20 minutes about science and breathing, but we just play with the kids. He's a good friend. I like him.
He's also a big inspiration for me. I didn't have this opportunity, but he's very inspiring, and I have learned and implemented as well so much for him. So I will also extend the respect and the gratitude that you started. Tim, I want to thank you very much from my heart for this conversation. It was, I found it extremely useful, and there were some parts, I know that everyone can take different parts of it, but I really enjoyed it. I think I could easily ask you for another 3 hours. I have many more questions. But thank you again very much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us today. Any last parting words?
No, well, just for people, if you want to get a hold of me, send me a WhatsApp. I'm available for people, I cannot do, spend hours on one person, but I can definitely help out. So you can contact me whether over email or via WhatsApp, and, we can talk about what you need or what is the problem and how you can become more of a Homo Luminous, a human 2.0, a H2O. Essential for life.
I hope you enjoyed listening and that you got a huge amount of value from today's episode. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about what I do, visit my website 𝗁𝗁𝗄𝗆𝗄𝗆. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,